I don't do a lot of TV or movie reviews. I've only done a few when it comes to my video content, but I couldn't resist the opportunity to talk about this new series called The Dropout, based on the Elizabeth Holmes and Theranos story. I think that's how you pronounce it, which is currently playing. I believe it's a Hulu series, but I'm watching it on Disney Plus. Not sure how that all works. So many streaming services these days. I'm watching it on Disney Plus. And so here we have this series called The Dropout. If you're unfamiliar, let me give you a little bit of an overview of what this story is all about. The story is about Elizabeth Holmes, who was a darling in Silicon Valley for this company called Theranos, which told everybody that you could take a drop of blood and run like a gajillion tests on it, and you no longer have to have needles for blood tests and what have you. Is going to be revolutionary, and now is part of a huge scandal and an ongoing court case where it's just a dramalicious story, almost too hard to believe. It just doesn't get any stranger than this. And here's what we're talking about. Elizabeth Holmes was literally a rock star. Not only was she a female founder, which is what's interesting for me when it comes to the work that I do as a startup advisor, an investor, and a startup founder myself, who has been enamored with Silicon Valley culture for a long time in the past. Well, you can just see how famous Elizabeth Holmes got, and she was everywhere, all the way up to World Economic Forum, sitting on stage with Bill Clinton and Jack Ma, rubbing elbows with the elite of the society. Millions and millions of dollars gone down the drain, because what ended up happening was Theranos was revealed to be a complete, utter fake, and she scammed us all during that time. And I remember watching all these news clips about her rise and then her subsequent fall, and I didn't really pay a lot of attention to it. But when this came out, I began digging a little deeper. And let me tell you, this series makes me so queasy on so many levels, but it's kind of like a car crash that I can't look away. I have to just keep watching it, even though my stomach is turning and I feel this sense of revulsion as I'm watching it, because you know the ending of the story, but to watch it all happen and then for it to get dramatized, it's very similar to The Social Network. Very well done. The series is very well done. Even if you're not involved in Silicon Valley or startups or founder yourself, this is an entertaining watch. And obviously things have to be dramatized, but even if half this stuff is true that happened, the way that it happened, my goodness, it's crazy. It's crazy. What's great about this series is I remember the actress Amanda Seyfried, don't know how to pronounce it, Amanda S. And I knew her from back in the day watching Mean Girls, way back in the day. And she was just a ditzy blonde. And that's how I've known her, and sort of you get typecast in Hollywood. And I've seen her in different other series, but she's always playing kind of that. She's not playing a dramatic character, if you will. I've seen her in some action movies, but forgettable roles, just very generic. So here, I believe that she deserves to win an award. The transformation, the character arc, and just watching it. And I'm only 4 episodes in. That's all that's been released, but it's a revelation to watch. And I think she's doing a tremendous job in selling this character, because she's so larger than life in the way that she's being portrayed, but so realistic. And you just see it happening. Very complex on so many levels, especially when it comes to the way Elizabeth Holmes grew up, as they've kind of delved into her backstory, her childhood, and the reason she became the way she became, especially her relationship with her parents and her father. Little heartbreaking to watch. It makes a lot of sense on a pure psychological development basis. And to see this kind of portrayed in this dramatized fashion, dramatic fashion, very fascinating. Great job on the part of Amanda Seyfried. Again, I'm just going to butcher it. Sorry if I'm doing it injustice. But if you just take a look and at the culture of what happens in Silicon Valley, and again, I'll be very transparent. There was a time where I was very enamored. All I wanted to do was get down to Silicon Valley. I wanted to be part of the Silicon Valley culture, wanted to move down there. But after spending large amounts of time down there, multiple visits and visiting some of these big offices and companies and these VC or these incubators and these accelerators, it's just completely not me. But it's just a great picture of that type of, I guess, environment or the culture down there. This was 2010. You see just open office plans, glass, white. And here is Elizabeth Holmes' character drinking this green juice, and it becomes kind of a theme, the whole thing with some broccoli. And here she is with her COO, which happened to be her romantic partner at the time as well, who's also got investigated, and I believe he's going through trial right now under the same charges that Elizabeth Holmes is going under, or was. I believe she was convicted. Again, don't know all the details. Again, it's just kind of unraveling in the part of this series where I'm watching, and it's just the truth is starting to come out. And the first part of the series, the first 3 episodes really details sort of the rise of Elizabeth Holmes, how she was able to convince all these people to get on board. And I'm going to say started off with really great intentions, but then got caught up in the culture and just had to put on this persona. And then she slowly starts to become like this caricature of who she idolized, which is Steve Jobs. And she started wearing these turtlenecks and making her voice go deeper. And again, the acting, the transformation at first is very jarring to watch her do it, but then it just kind of sneaks up on you as she starts to use it more and more. And you realize, oh my goodness, she's taking all these people for a ride. And what it comes down to is she appealed to the vanity, the ego, just of that culture at the time. Amazing. Again, a little dramatic, or it seems larger than life, embellished, but even if half of it was true, just like, oh, I don't know how else to really describe my reactions to watching this. But here you got some of the characters that were portrayed and their real life counterparts. And these are really real people who got caught up. And it's amazing how everything is kind of swept under the cover. All these individuals who joined her were, it's just kind of like swept under the carpet. Like, again, if this really happened this way, I'd be so embarrassed to be involved in this situation with Theranos. And then there are some characters that simply didn't believe her. This one character in the top left of your screen, the one female scientist who gave her a real hard time coming from academia, even that culture, it just was so revolting, because I've dealt with academia culture. I've dealt with sort of the egos that can be involved in the academia, but it was the truth. So this one character, this female doctor, she just said, hey, I don't believe this is going to work. And she was very hard on the Elizabeth Holmes character. And you were actually sympathetic to the way that it went out. And then you look at some of these corporate characters that got involved, an executive from Walgreens, and just the way that they approached it. And their culture was different than academia and as well as Silicon Valley. And then you got these wealthy people from Silicon Valley sitting on their yachts and doing all these things. And in the top right, you got Larry Ellison of Oracle. And oh my goodness, again, if it's just remotely half true, you just have to watch it and go, are these just caricatures or is this real life? And unfortunately, I hate to say it, but I've been in situations where a lot of the things that happen in the series are very much mirrored like in real life, where the show Silicon Valley, the comedy show about Pied Piper, was sort of like a spoof, and you were like, nah, that doesn't really happen, but it kind of does happen. This is a lot more dramatic, and it's a little scary as to the reality of what goes on in these cultures and what happens when you really get caught up in that Silicon Valley culture and you get venture capital money and you got to put on the parties and you have to do all the corporate politics and the security and what have you. And all these people that get burned because they're just trying to do the right thing. It's, again, scary, like a car accident or watching a really gross and disgusting like body horror show or something on YouTube where, just they're doing something just so gross, but you have to watch it. You just watch it aghast. Your mouth is open on the ground and you're just watching, but you cannot look away. That's how I feel about this series. So it's akin to something else coming up. I just caught some advertising for this. This is a story of WeWork and Adam Newman, who's a very similar type, where they called him a sociopathic or narcissistic type CEO who had a huge vision, convinced a whole bunch of people to sink a whole bunch of money, and a love story worth 47 billion. And that's the same thing with Elizabeth Holmes. Is she admits, and there's this one line in the show where she just says to her partner or some people, I can't remember the situation, where she said, I don't feel the same way or the same things that other people feel. And just this sociopathic tendency and this narcissistic, larger than life persona that she really dove into, and is very similar to what they talked about in terms of Steve Jobs. And he had this aura about him. I forget what they called it. They called it some type of disruptive or disruption field or something like that, where if you're in the presence of Steve Jobs, and they deified him, but Steve Jobs actually created value and he didn't fake it. And there was one line where the main character, Elizabeth Holmes, she's presenting and she says, I'm going with what Mark Zuckerberg says of Facebook, and that's move fast and break things, when she was really saying we're going to move fast and fake things. And this goes to the whole, again, Silicon Valley sort of culture with founders in terms of fake it till you make it. When is it appropriate to fake it till you make it? Because as founders, if you're working in startups, there's a certain amount of faking it because you're trying to do something completely new and innovative. And you can't deny the vision that Elizabeth Holmes had for Theranos. But at the same time, how much is going too far? And when is it completely inappropriate where you fake it so much that you're causing danger and you're hurting people, which is what ended up happening in the Theranos situation. So there's my initial overview. Again, 4 episodes in. I highly recommend watching it. If you're not a founder, you're not part of startups, just watch it for the sheer entertainment value, to give you an inside look, very similar to The Big Short or Too Big to Fail, or these other dramas that talked about the subprime mortgage meltdown in Wall Street, gives you an inside look in that culture. This will give you a window, although a very dramatic and embellished window, into the Silicon Valley culture and all that happened with Theranos, and going all the way up to being on magazine covers and Forbes and Fast Company and the Time magazine and World Economic Forum, and kind of what happens when it comes to high-tech companies. And if you're a founder, watch it and take it as a tale of caution, if you will. Very few of us, very small percentage, minuscule percentage, will ever get to the level of what Elizabeth Holmes and Theranos experienced with that type of venture capital. But it's a good moral of the story type lesson to watch what you're going to witness. And again, you might be enthralled, you might be completely disgusted, but isn't that what good entertainment is all about? And I fully admit, usually I just want to watch things that turn my brain off for sheer pure entertainment value. But this one, I can't stop watching it. And maybe I'll continue to do a few more videos to talk about my insights and reflections from the whole series. But for now, check it out, join me. And I hope this is giving you a little bit of interest to see what the Dropout is all about.